Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-host, Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain. That is Kenny Simpson. Kenny, we're at it by ourselves again. I feel like we've had guests a lot here lately.
We have.
Which is wonderful. And if you guys, just opening up here, if you want to be a guest on the show, we love having guests. We do not like talking to ourselves in a little echo chamber of football. So please, by all means, and there's my phone going off in the background, by all means, shoot us an email and come on the show. Coach, you are still at it, still playing football.
Yeah, and it's December the 4th when we're recording this, and we're still playing ball, man. It's been a long, really fun ride. And, if you're a guy who makes these long runs and you do it every year, you must have a lot of energy because, man, I'm having a lot of fun. But, man, it takes a lot out of you, But I think the adrenaline of knowing that, hey, we're getting near the end and we're one of the teams still playing, and
last 8, right?
Last four
now.
So and then I think in the state, the way Arkansas is a little different. Apparently if you're 3A or 4A, which we were 5A last year, 4A this year, you got to play like 15 games. It's like an NFL team basically to win it. Now, if you're in a different class, like 5A or 6A or 2A or smaller ones, they only got to play 13 or 14 games. So there's a lot of state championship games happening this weekend.
Yes.
We're playing to get into it, and so it's been a long season, but man, it's been really cool, watching our kids. First time I've done Christmas shopping and had to leave practice to go do it, and so,
right.
It's been a good year when that's going on, and this community's been waiting for that for a while. When we took over the job here a while back, 0-10 and kind of the laughing stock, and then fast forward now, it's been a process. Fast forward now, and now you're looking at, I think people that are over the age of, 12 think we still suck, so they can't really believe that we're here.
Yeah.
But the kids that are through it are like, yeah, our kids are like, yeah, this is what we thought we were going to do at the beginning of the season. It shouldn't be any different.
I love it. And it's pretty neat to see programs do that. You guys are obviously on a heck of a tear here. Bo Collins, who's been on the show with us before, a good friend of mine, they're in the state championship game at Farmington this year. So there's a lot of you Arkansas guys that I talk to that are having some success. It makes me want to jump state lines, I guess. I got to get over there.
Give me some of that. Arkansas football is different for sure, man. And Bo's having a great year at Farmington. I think they won like 75, 72 or something like that. They're scoring some points now. So we're a little different. We won 24-7. And our defensive coordinator was mad we gave up the 7 because it was a busted coverage. And we're winning games a little bit different here at Southside than they are. But either way, winning's winning.
That's right.
Whatever it takes.
The hardest thing to do, right, as a coach is just win the game. So
that's right.
Awesome. Well, Coach, let's we're going to talk a little bit about your program today and kind of where you built. You talk about starting 0-10, and here you are at 13-0, and we don't want to put any jinx or anything on your season. We know that I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little bit stitious. So we don't want to forecast anything beyond what we have, in the that's carved in stone yet. But we do want to talk about kind of what you've done to take that program and turn it around and get it where it is. But let's get that quote of the week knocked out, and then we'll get into some ads.
Yeah, I figured it was football show. We might as well use some football coaches. So we're going Vince Lombardi on this one. This is out of the book Team Themes Volume 4. So if you're now looking for off-season stuff, our Team Themes books, we have Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of those are simple things you can pick up. We're still using them with our kids this week. So word of the week for us this week is unity. We're basically going to recycle because apparently I only did like 12 chapters and we're in week 14 now. So we're recycling some of the themes, but our kids really have enjoyed it. It's been cool to hear them go on interviews with the radio and they talk, the word of the week this week was whatever. And I was like, oh, they are listening, because sometimes you don't know if it's sticking. Anyway, this is out of Volume 4. Vince Lombardi says the difference between a successful person and others is not a lack of strength. It's not a lack of knowledge. It's a lack of will. And I think that's going to kind of fit the show today. A lot of times we want to talk about coaches of, what is the magic button? What do we need to do to get here? How do I fast forward the process? Because nothing's cooler than watching an 0-10 team go 10-0. But that's not, that can be reality, but is not common. More often, programs that get where they want to go, it takes some time. And a lot of times we're not willing to put the time or the effort into it. We want the quick fix. And so we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into this episode. But a lot of times we talk with our players, and I would talk with the coaches about this. Coaching in life doesn't get easy. It's never easy. It stays hard. So what you better do as a person is you better get hard too. You better figure out a way that you can handle hard and embrace hard. When you're looking for what's the quick fix and whatever it might be, you're not ready to be good. When you're ready to grind and get after it and do hard things, you're ready.
I love it. You talked about those kids that you're watching these words of the week and they're watching it stick and they're bringing it up. I think you said even a couple weeks ago they were using it in interviews after the game, right? Like just talking.
That's been cool.
We focused on this word all week, and so you love to see such a small thing you're doing sticks with them. But especially when they call you back in like a couple of years and it's still the same thing, right? Resiliency or whatever you're trying to teach them when they keep using it post football. I think that's always really neat.
Yeah, this week's word for us is unity. So we're going to we've rehashed that one. I'm excited to see. We try to match it to the game. Last week's was composure, and we needed it because there were a lot of flags that game. High intensity games, composure. Week before that was sacrifice, and it's been neat to watch them kind of buy in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Coach, why don't you share some ways that we can, excuse me, it's still early in the morning. I had to get a yawn out there. Share some ways we can simplify football for our staff and our players.
Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Dell in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it, all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com. What's up, coaches? I want to talk to you for just a few moments about your program. The longer I'm in this profession, the more I understand that efficiency is truly the name of the game. You're talking offense, defense, doesn't matter, right? Eventually, you're going to come down to checking out your efficiency. So I have to ask you, are you doing everything in your program the most efficient way, right? Are you fundraising the most efficient way? Are you representing your players and your program to the public in the best way? Are you planning to build the facilities the most efficient way? If you answered no to any of those, or really even if you answered yes to all of them, and you haven't contacted Mark Bridges at Ace Sports, you're missing a key step. So look, Mark and his team, they are the go-to group for video board and scoreboard installations for your school. They're not just football either. Mark can help you mock up your newest video board for that new stadium, or maybe even your old stadium, right? That's where Mark and the guys come in. And we're not just buying a flashy thing, right? Yes, it's nice. It's pretty neat to have that big scoreboard, that big video board, but you're also, you're investing back into that program. You're investing into that newest fundraiser. Sure, you can keep selling your discount cards, your beef jerky, hosting pie auctions, whatever it is that you like to do. But let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not making enough money for those big ticket items. For the big ticket items like turf, an indoor facility, that's where you need a big ticket item fundraiser. That's what Ace Sports is offering you today. Guys, I've talked to Mark several times now, right? And it always comes down to big school, small school. Right? Well, of course, the big schools can afford that new video board, but the small schools really can't. It's just not true anymore, man. Your school isn't too small, and I promise. Okay, 1A, 2A schools, it doesn't matter. Mark and the guys, they're helping them out. Contact Mark today at mark.bridges@acesports.com and let him come give you a quote. Let him show you and your administration the plan. Now, really, it's the cheat code, right? Let him show you the cheat code that is fundraising with Ace Sports video boards. Tell him Daniel sent you. Awesome. Appreciate that, Coach. Hey, guys, it is almost clinic season. I know as this comes out in a couple weeks, it'll be basically Christmas. I mean, dude, you're still playing football and like all the holidays are going to be over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one should come out around the 16th to the 23rd. I have to look at the exact dates. Clinic season is very quickly coming up on us. I know AFCA is like that first week in January, right? Or I think January starts on a Wednesday, so it's the second week. And then you've got a gun tee clinic there. What about other gun tee clinics, Coach? Where can we find those at?
Yeah. First one being Charlotte right before AFCA. That one's starting to fill up. So if you're wanting to come to that, it's getting kind of late now. Let me know. We try to make sure we got a spot for you. Then we're going to be in Phoenix, Arizona in January, and then Batesville, Arkansas, the national one. In the month of February, we got like 3 of them. We're going to be in Oxford, Alabama. We're going to be in, let me check the rest of them. We're going to be in April when you're coming. We're going to be in Boston. We're going to be in Wisconsin. Those are April ones. We're going to be in Seattle up in March. I think we're going to be in, I can't think of the other one. I know there's another one coming up in February. Oh, Texas. I don't know why I couldn't think of Texas. But we're going to be out there in San Antonio in February as well. And then in between my week off, Rick Stewart and I will be hosting Wings and Things, which is a virtual. So that one you can do from the comfort of your own home. We're doing it right around Valentine's. So don't worry, there's recordings for you guys that are married. Guys that are single, we got you covered. So Single Awareness Day, you can watch football on Wings and Things. And then we also got the 6.0 is out. It's been going crazy. Also the gun tee system. Just heads up every year because we add content, the price goes up because we're adding books and we're adding different things we can include with it. It's a lifetime deal. So if you decide, hey, I want to be a gun tee guy, how do I do that? You go over to fbcoachsimpson.com, you get the whole system. And then as we add like this year's version of clinics, all the new stuff, Daniel's doing one, everyone else is doing one, you get access to all of that stuff for life. But as we add books, the cost for me goes up. So unfortunately, the cost for everybody else also goes up. So probably in January, that will bump up. We can take school purchase orders. I don't like taking money from coaches because we don't make enough, but I do like taking government money because they have plenty of it. So if you have a school purchase order, we'll take that gladly. And also, I think we're pretty much booked up on Bring Coach Simpson in. So if you're a guy looking to bring myself and Coach Gould, I think we've got both our weekends full. So if you are interested at all, get with us. We can see we can maybe tag it on to one of the ones we're already doing. But we usually fill up on those pretty quickly. All that information is over at fbcoachsimpson.com.
Wonderful. Also, I want to talk about the Headsets magazine. If you have not read it, go back and read the last, it's 4 years old now. You've been doing them for a while, about 6 different magazines each year. So go back and dig through, man. Wonderful articles from a ton of different coaches, all different experience levels. And man, if you're a gap guy, you can go read some zone stuff. If you're a defensive guy, read some offensive stuff, program building, all the kind of things in there. If you are someone who has some experience and you'd like to share some knowledge with the world, Kenny is always looking for people to write articles. So reach out to Kenny or myself. We'll get you set up to write some articles for the Headsets magazine. It looks really good on my resume. I'll say that, right? I wrote some articles. I captured all the magazine covers and threw them right there on my resume. It looks really good to be a published author. And all I did was write about football, which is something I already talk about twice a week anyway. So
yeah, and the cool part about Headsets is it's for coaches by coaches, and it's guys that are just sharing knowledge, and it's all free. Jamie does most of the hard lifting, and then the writers are free. We don't pay anything, we don't make anything, but we just share knowledge with coaches, and it's been really cool. I think it's been downloaded like over 100,000 times. So I mean, those magazines are reaching guys across the globe. When I say reaching guys, I'm talking guys in Asia, Australia, Europe, all over. So if you want to write and kind of reach a wide audience, that's a really good opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, Coach, let's get into it. So we're talking a little program building today. We really want to focus on the job you've done there. Obviously, going from, like you said, you have an 0-10 year under your belt, and here you are at 13-0. So in your opinion, what is that most key piece? What are the most important things in building a program?
Man, I get asked that a lot, because I think a lot of people they follow our journey here at Southside. Although I'll go back to my experience real quickly, and I don't like to share too much of myself, but I think you need to kind of know. I was at Madison Academy, so if you're a guy in Alabama, you know that school is the team that for a while there was on the top of the world. I got to be there when it was starting to ascend. So they had been a not great program, went about 500. I was there for 3 years where they got to the first or second round and then left to take a job somewhere else. I got to kind of see that program start to make strides forward. Then I took a job in Montgomery when I was the head coach there. They had been like 4-16 or whatever it was, and we were able to have some success early. So I was able to put some of those things into practice. Then I moved to Arkansas. Not a great school to start off with. In my first couple of years, I wasn't very good either because I had to learn. I mean, there's a reason some schools struggle, and so took a while, and then now we're in a good place. Obviously, we hope to take care of business in a couple more weeks and make it an incredible year. But if you're playing in December, I don't care what happens. You've had a pretty good season.
Right.
So that's kind of my background of seeing things. So that's where I'm coming from with these words of wisdom. There's other guys that I got it from. Okay, I would say from my experience that I think the number one thing is, can you match the community? Can you create buy-in where you're going? There's some times where a coach just is not a fit. And we'll talk about that question number 3, I think. But when you're looking at jobs and you're looking at, can I get where I want to get? Do I fit? Do I fit in this community? Are they going to want somebody like me? Because I don't want to be somebody who I'm not. Like I'm me, and I'm unique, and I'm different, and I'm weird. And is that going to fit here? Are these kids going to buy into that, or is this community going to buy into that, or is it not? So I think you have to look at that stuff first, and buy-in happens a lot of ways. I talk a lot about buy-in, but it happens a lot of ways, but usually it happens over time, proven time. Unless you played in a Super Bowl in the NFL, you're not coming in with a resume where these kids are going to naturally just bam, listen. It's going to take you proving, I care about this school, I care about this community, and I'm competent at what I'm doing where I can help you. Those are the 2 biggest things that create buy-in is, do you know what you're doing and you can show them how you're going to help them be successful? Have you been successful, or can they relate to you have some success? Those are the 2 biggest things on buy-in. And that means not just the kids. That means community, admin, parents. You've got to make sure that that's a place I can create buy-in here. It's never going to be perfect because you don't get to play every kid on the team. So if somebody's mad at you, that's
Absolutely.
part of life. But the ones that matter, are you going to be able to get them to buy into what's going on? So I think that's number 1. I think number 2 is matching scheme to the talent that you have. Are you going to be able to maximize the talent you have with the scheme you're implementing? There's a lot of good schemes. Y'all know I run the gun tee. It's been really good for us. Some schools, 10 personnel. Some schools, flex foam. Some schools, whatever it is. But I'll say this, you have to have a system that's going to be able to maximize the talent that you have year in and year out. If you don't, I don't care how great of culture you have or how great a person you are, you're shortchanging your kids. Like if you're not giving them the best opportunity by matching the scheme to what they can do, you're going to struggle. And I've seen multiple schools that we've played that are running the spread that have no business running the spread. Like doesn't match them. Spread's a great offense. I got to go try to defend that next Friday in a semifinal game, and they're really good at it because it matches their kids. But if you're running something that doesn't match your kids, you're shortchanging them. That goes on both sides of the ball. So scheme matters. It's not as important as culture. It's not as important as buy-in, but it's number 2, in my opinion, is number 2. You better know what you're doing. I think having great coaches, like finding a way to bring in great people to help you achieve the vision that you have. Coaches, I could go on for a long time here on what I look for, but basically I'm looking for guys that are willing to do hard things, that are going to be loyal to me, and that are willing to improve themselves. Experience is great, but not a prerequisite. Knowledge is great, but definitely not a prerequisite. Now, you need to have some guys that have some experience and knowledge. So it's not just you, but I want guys that are constantly willing to improve themselves. Those guys are going to get better at scheme naturally. They're going to get better at because they're going to continue to learn. They're going to get better. So, saw a podcast once. I think I put it in a couple different things as well. Where a coach basically said, you could be a 30-year coach, but have you actually gotten better or are you just old? Like there's difference in being experienced, and those guys are super valuable. Or are you just an old coach who's been lazy and you haven't gotten any better?
We
Like that's,
we had a coach in Oklahoma that was fired because he refused to resign for that exact reason here, and I think he was at like 35 or 37. Now this is all rumors. I wasn't in the room when it was done, but he's closing in on 40 years at one school, and essentially just the rest of the staff is like, we can't do this anymore. So yeah, that's a really good question. I think you have to ask yourself at every stage, right? All along your journey. So
and then
that's
the
a
flip
good
side
one.
of that coin, you got the guy that your boy's working with at Farmington who's been retired for 10 years. He's in his like upper 70s. He's in the state championship game. So like experience matters, knowledge matters if you're constantly willing to improve. And those are the guys you need to hire as a coach. Like that's what I'm looking to hire. I think it's important you have diversity on your staff. Diversity as far as skill level, diversity as far as age, diversity as far as ethnicity. I think it's super important you have a diverse staff that can reach every kid in your program. So I think that's big. Can you hire a good staff? If you do, you're going to look a lot smarter because it's hard to coach 70 kids with one guy. It's just impossible. So I think facilities matter. They're down the list a little bit. Facilities or the willingness to upgrade facilities do matter because we're in the stage now where whatever your thoughts are, we're in the stage where kids can pick where they go. And when they pick, that stuff matters. Do I really care that we have 6 different uniform combos? Nope. Do the kids care? Yep. So we need that. Do I care we have a video board? I mean, not really. But do our kids care? Is it a cool thing for them and our community? Yep. Those things matter when you're bringing kids in. And ultimately, that's what it's all about, is what makes kids have a great experience. I think you got to have a supportive administration. Are they going to allow you to do the things you want to do for your team? That doesn't mean they always tell you yes, but if it's something that's in the best interest of your kids, are they going to do their best to give you those opportunities to go do? They're going to let you go to clinics to grow your staff. Are they going to allow you to take your kids on cool experiences? Are they going to allow you to provide your kids with the facilities they need and the gear they need? Are they going to take care of your kids? Are they going to back you up when you have to bench a kid who has an influential parent? There's those situations where that supportive admin is going to matter. The last thing I'd put on here for trying to become a successful program is, are you willing to be different? I don't know where you are. You may be at a program where they're always good and you don't have to be different. And I'm not saying be different just to be different. I think there's some young coaches that want to be different just to be cool. I'm not saying any of that stuff.
Right.
I'm saying, are you willing to do something unorthodox because you think it will help your team win? Like, are you willing to try something different because you think it will help your team win? And it may epically fail. Like, it may be awful, but you think it's best for your kids. Or are you so worried about failure that you're going to do things the way you've always done them? There's a fine line in that. There's a fine line in being really good at technique and skill and being aggressive. In my experience, most coaches that are aggressive, like naturally aggressive, on the verge of trying new things, doing new things, they're playing to win, are going to win a lot more games than coaches that are playing not to lose. And I think that's a hard lesson to get into. You can go from really bad to good playing not to lose, because there's other teams out there that are awful, that if you do that, you can go from really bad to good playing really conservative. You're not going to go from good to great playing conservative. It's not going to happen. Like, you're going to have to eventually throw a punch. You can't win a boxing match when all you're doing is dodging. So what are you doing to punch back? This week, semifinals or quarterfinals, we were stinking it up on offense. Bad. Bad. So we put in a trick play that we hadn't even really practiced in a while. Bam, there it goes. We put in a fake field goal. Bam, there it goes. A fake punt. I was going in that game, we're going to pull everything out to win it. And you know what I'm doing the next week? Whatever we got to do.
Same
You're not
thing.
going to beat the semifinal team playing, hope they make a mistake. Hope they make a mistake. You have to make them make a mistake. So I think that's the biggest jump going from good to great is you have to be willing to be different and have to be willing to be aggressive, even if it leads to failure at times.
I love every one of those, Coach. And I know that this isn't like this isn't a rating scale from 1 to 5 or 6 or whatever. I see that supportive administration. I think that one's huge, right? I've seen what the lack of that looks like, and you can't go there and be a successful program. So is that the most important? I don't know. You could have, the kindest administration in the world, but they won't build you a weight room. You probably still aren't going to win any games, right? So I can definitely see how it's, each of in its own could be the most important. Question 2 here, and kind of getting into the why does this work some places and not others? So why is it that some programs, they can become successful and then others just kind of consistently aren't? What is the difference there?
Yeah, that's tough, man. And that's it. And you guys right now, because we're in that part of the season where probably guys listening to this podcast are going, okay, I'm looking for jobs, or I'm in a job right now where I got to decide, is this the job or not? That's tough. And it's tough to see it, and you really sometimes don't know it until you're in it, But I'd say the number one thing on that is usually it's going to be support among the admin and community. I think that's the biggest difference in programs that are going to be successful down the road and programs that are going to not be a place coaches want to go. We have a school here in Arkansas, and I'm not going to say their name, but if you're in Arkansas, you know what I'm talking about. That had a coach. They've gone through. They got rid of a coach that made the quarter and semifinals. Brought in a poor guy that you knew. He makes it to the playoffs, gets beat in the first round. We got people spitting on him in the stands and putting for sale signs in his house and whatever. I don't care what kind of talent you got. I would never take that job or advise anyone I know to take that job. I would advise everybody to stay away from it. And so there are jobs where the community and the support is not there for a coach. If you're in the deep South, Texas, man, get ready. And that's just it's a rough world. They think they're a college, as every high school does. So there are some ones that, man, it's going to be difficult to be successful because the support and the admin is not going to be there. So those are the questions I would do a lot of asking if I was doing an interview, is figuring out how long of a lease do I have here? How much support am I going to get when things don't go well? Because I don't know if you know this, but you're not always going to win every game. So when that happens, how's that going to go? Am I going to be allowed to build things the way I want to build them, or somebody else telling me what I got to do? Can I lift my kids, or are they told they don't have to? There's a lot of those things about off season that need to be asked, because that's how you're going to get better. Then I think you got to look at some schools, that talent. I mean, you got to look at, do I have the talent to compete against the people I need to compete and beat? Like, it doesn't have to be world beater talent, but like if you're going into a school where you already know there's 7 games you have no chance of winning, man, I don't know if that's a good job. It's probably not, because I don't care how smart you are. And I think a lot of coaches do this too. We go into a job thinking we're smarter than the guy who left the job. Sometimes that guy was pretty dang smart. Sometimes he did the best job he could, and it just didn't work out. Like every coach, if you could coach long enough, you're in a place where they don't want you anymore. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means that time has come. So be careful going into a job assuming that your intelligence is going to make them better than they were before. Sometimes talent matters a lot, and you need to realistically look at that. Now, is talent the only thing? No, but it is a big thing. You need to have enough weapons. You don't want to be walking into a gunfight, with an arrow. You're probably not going to win. So you need to have enough talent to be successful. I put down here, what's the coaching staff look like? What's that situation look like? Like, are you stuck with dudes that have been there forever and they don't want to get better? And that's going to be a toxic situation. Can you bring guys in, or are the guys that are there willing to buy into what you're doing and willing to learn? Because I think the coaching staff has got to be headed in the right direction. Everybody pulling their own weight. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you need everybody to be buying into what you're doing and trying to get better. You can't carry dead weight on the coaching staff. And so that's the big questions you got to ask when you walk into these jobs is, how's that going to go? And then you got to look at it, kind of go back to the first question I said, are you a fit in this community? Everybody gets excited about taking a job. Are you a fit here? Like, do you fit in at this community? One, for your own personal happiness. Like, football coaching is a job. It's not your whole life. Like, are you going to be happy at this community? Two, are you going to be able to reach these kids? Like, are you going to be able to reach this community? Do you fit here? There's a lot of times you'll see some guy from maybe a urban city going to a rural school. I'm not saying you can't do that, but there's going to be some adjustment from both sides to that. You may see a guy going in and he's a younger guy taking a job and it's all older coaches on staff. How's that going to go? I'm not saying it can't be done, but you need to look at, do I fit this school? And a lot of times what happens, because I was there, and it was for a long time ago, but I would have probably taken any job that was offered to me as a head coach because I wanted to be a head coach so bad. Like, I wanted to be a head coach since I was 12 years old. So I would have probably taken some really bad jobs, and I got lucky that they weren't offered to me until the one that was offered to me was offered to me. So you got to be careful, because if you take a really bad head coaching job and you plummet and tank, it's hard to recover from that, especially if it's your first job. If you've done it, you've been a good head coach and you take a job that doesn't work out, you're okay. But if your first experience as head coach is epic failure, it's hard to recover from that.
That's the applying to be head coaches because you want to be a head coach. I think I went through that like about the same time everyone else does, right? When you've coordinated a little bit, or you've been in a program where it's small, so everyone has big roles, and you're like, oh, okay, I can take the hot seat, right? Luckily, I'm hoping I'm past that, because I don't want to be in that situation. That would be terrible. Just taking a job, because I've been lucky. Like, this year, I got on a really good staff, and it made me realize like I'm valuable to just sit on the sides and like assist, and it really makes it nice when you're in a good place that lets you be a good assistant coach. So,
and I'd say you're there, Daniel, when you get offered a job and you turn it down.
Yeah,
like, that's when okay. Because like right now, guys, you coach long enough, I'm going to get 5-6 job offers this off season.
Right.
And I'm happy where I am. I'm going to turn those down. That's when you kind of know, okay, I'm not just taking a job to take a job.
I hear UCF needs a guy.
They pay me enough to fire me. I like Malzahn. He's pretty sharp.
I know. I can't believe they let him go. Sounds like it wasn't on their terms, though. Well, let's jump to this last part here, Coach. What are the biggest factors in deciding on taking a job? And I'll let you go here. I know I'm looking at different stuff than you, and it's because I've never been there before. So I don't know where the roadblocks were, right? So you may be looking at, hey, I hit hurdles here, here, and here. I want to make sure those questions are answered up front. Where if I go to an interview today and I get to look around, like, my questions are going to be different. So I'd love to hear what yours are.
Okay.
And then I'll compare them to what I was looking at.
And I think just looking at what you wrote in there, they're going to be similar. But to me, I think the biggest thing is, does the talent match the expectation? Like, expectations are huge when you walk in somewhere. Does your talent match your expectations? Like, because jobs are different. Jobs are created different. Some jobs, they've been over for 3 or 4 years. So those ones, the expectations are super low. So the talent's super low. At least you're matched. You're good. Some jobs you walk into and they've been kind of 500 and the talent's about 500. So you're pretty okay in that job. Some jobs, it's a good job. They've been talented, really, really good in the past. So, but the talent is high and the expectations are high. All of those are even. Like, in my mind, those are all jobs that are probably okay to take, but they're not like the best job. Right. The best job is where the talent exceeds the expectation. Like, you walk in and they were 0-10, but you can see, I could win 4 or 5 games with these guys right now. You know what? That talent is above the expectation level. Or they've been 500, but they've been super undisciplined. You know, I can take this group and get a little more disciplined and I can get to 8 wins. Or, okay, they've been winning 7, 8 games a year, but the talent is there to make a real run with these guys. Expectations are under talent. You want to take those type of jobs, like as far as just ability to win. When it gets reversed is when it's a bad job. When it gets reversed is when it's a bad job. When you had a coach there before, or you look at it, man, they've always kind of overachieved. They've always kind of been pretty good at what they do. They're not super talented, or the town's living 20 years ago when they were winning state championships left and right. That ain't there anymore. Okay. But that's the expectation. Or how many coaches have been fired in the last 10 years? If the answer is more than 2 and they didn't do something like horribly wrong, don't take that job. I mean, that's just playing the odds.
Yeah.
Schools had 4 coaches in 10 years. You ain't going to be there very long. And that's just part of it. So I would make sure expectations and talent are in whack, at least even, preferably for a good job. The talent is above the expectation, but never take a job where they're flipped. And then the second thing I would ask would be the support you're going to get. And that goes back to look at their history. How long have they held on to coaches? Don't ask questions. You can ask all the questions you want. People can say whatever they want in that room. How long have they held on to a coach? I took the job at Southside. I knew we were not going to be very good, but they had held on to a coach for 5 years who had gone through 3-0-10 seasons.
Whew.
So clearly, and that wasn't his fault. They were awful. He's a pretty smart guy, real smart guy. But they knew that he was doing the best he could with what he had. So I thought, okay, they're going to give him that kind of time. They're going to give me time to grow the program. If you look at a job and it's been new coach, and there's not some random reason, like they're not leaving for better jobs, okay? You want to avoid those jobs because that administration clearly does not have your back. It's a place people don't want to be, okay? So be careful with those. I'd say the next thing would be willingness to put money into the program. Either you helping raise the money, I've done that myself here, or the school putting their money where their mouth is. There's lots of ways that can happen. That can be facilities. That can be coaches' salaries. That can be taking care of the kids, making sure that we can take them on whatever we want to go do. Whatever it's going to be, are they going to put their money where their mouth is? Because if you want to find out if an admin really is football, where does their money go? I always heard that when I went to church. You want to find out where your heart is, follow your checkbook. Where your checkbook is and your time is, that's where your priority is. I'd ask the admin the same thing. Are they showing up to games? Are they supportive of what you're doing? Are they putting money into the program? If they're not, they can say whatever they want. They're not supportive. So you can ask questions and you need to ask questions. But really you need to look at where's their money, where's their time going? Are they giving you enough to be successful?
Yep.
Last thing I would say on that, I think I talked about admin already, talked about expectations, talked about talent. I think you got to look at it, talking to and interviewing the guys that have left that job. Every job I've applied for, I've called the coach who was at the job before. Look them up, reach out, understand you're grading on a curve because this may be somebody who's upset.
Right.
But most of the time, you're going to get the real dirt talking to the guy who was there before you. And you'll know what you're walking into.
I love it. You essentially everything that I was going to say. I'm looking at location. That's something that I know there's coaches out there that move for jobs, right? You talked about even you went from Alabama to Arkansas, and I don't know if there was any extenuating circumstance, but we're pretty much rooted in here, right? We're not. My wife has her own business. Our family's here. We're not going anywhere. So that is a limiting factor for me searching for jobs because although I am willing to drive a long ways, I was, hour and a half is not too far for me. I have in the last couple of years learned that the spot better be right for that sacrifice because it was 2 years ago. Although the job was really, really good, And my son said, "Daddy, I wish you never became a football coach." Right in the middle of the season, like that hurts. You know what I mean? So that time away from the kiddos is big time. Now he's so glad that I'm a football coach, but I spent this season at home pretty much. So a little bit different. So location, I think, matters. Is it somewhere that you can get to? Are you going to have to move? You know, I send out random head coach applications to be around other people I know, to be around Joe up in Virginia, right? I'm always looking to get to Arkansas because, man, it's like a $20,000 pay bump just to go across the state line. It's 12 miles that direction over my shoulder to get to Arkansas. Make 20 grand extra. Let's go. But there's not a lot of places I would just be willing to uproot everybody and move anyway. So I think location's a big one. I put a lot of stock in facilities because I think a program has to look successful at face value. You know what I mean? You talked about this is the transfer portal and NIL era. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't look great when they roll up to come see if they want to come to your school or not, you're probably already kind of playing from behind the eight ball. So, not that looks are everything. You still got to go in there and do the work, but is that stuff available? It's no secret right now that turf fields are luring coaches and players, which I personally think that soft tissue injuries are higher on turf fields, which I think there's science right now trying to prove that. But man, you can't beat it, right? At the high school level, you don't have to go out and paint the field. You ain't got to water it and reseed it. And where do you practice? You practice on your home field. Like, it just makes sense. I think kids like it a lot more. There's just so many more things you can do with a turf field. We've already talked weight room and stuff. I think the facilities matter a lot. But support to me is going to be the big one. And it's because I have seen, even when coaches, when all the other things I mentioned and a lot of things you mentioned aren't there, but coaches still said, we don't care. We got a good team. We've assembled the Avengers. We're going to go in and make this team successful, and showed immediate response, immediately flipped the team around. And the administration still found a way to tear that apart. And I've told this story many times when a good friend of mine was asked in the hallway by a teacher when we're 3-1 or something at a team that hadn't won 4 games in 6 years. Total combined. The teacher said, "Hey, where are you going to coach next year?" to my friend, the head coach. Like, what do you here? Why are you asking me that? No, you won't. You're successful. They'll find a way to get rid of you. And you hate to see that. Like, that can't be the culture, right? You almost wish you could walk the hallways and ask, "Hey, what are you going to be saying when we're 3-1 or whatever?" Right? Because there's no way you could know that. Although you did say it, Kenny. You hit it on the head with the lots of head coaches in a short amount of time. They find reasons to get rid of people, and that stinks. So I think administration is probably the most important, because you can take a good administration and get a lot of things done. Sweet. Well, I think we knocked it out of the park today, Coach. That's a good one. I know we've done a lot of these finding a job types, but at the end of the day, you're going to clinics to get better, right? You're going to clinics to win more games. You're buying systems to win more games. You're hiring coaches to win more games. Everything it comes down to is being a successful program. And sometimes I think we lose track, like, of all the little pieces. And people are looking from the outside in. I'm outside in, look, at what you're doing there. And it sure enough looks the outside in, like, go buy the gun tee and you can go 13-0 and be in the semis, right? But we know, yes, the system helps, but it's a small piece, right? There's so many things you've done over the years that, I've just been working with you for 3 or 4 years, and I've already realized, like, you're just the way that you take things and improve them little by little. And this was bound to come at some point. Not that y'all haven't coached your tails off. This isn't a given or anything else, right? But we have episodes of how you went to Home Depot and hired Bo Gould because he was the guy. Like, he fit what you needed. He's a great coach now, right? Yeah. He didn't probably even come in and apply, right? You had to go find the guy. It's all the little pieces, getting the fundraising going, where you can't have all the crazy uniforms. That stuff, little by little, adds pieces of the pie until now here you are. However the season plays out from here, it doesn't matter. Like you said, you're one of the last 4 teams doing it. There's not a lot of kids out there that haven't hung up their helmets for the year, and yours are some of them. So I hope people can hear these episodes and not go, here we go again with another what is a successful program episode. But I think it matters. And especially if you're new to the industry, Look, Bo Collins is over there, like you said, man. He's winning 75, 72 and 59, 58. And it ain't the system, right? That's a culture. That's a mentality to go out and we're going to do whatever it takes. And if today the offense we're going to lean on, tomorrow maybe we lean on the defense. It takes a little bit of everything. So
Yeah. Well, and just kind of to your point, two things to your point. One, in the second round, we had 600 yards of offense, and we gave up 34 points in one. And then last round, we had 360 yards of offense, which I thought was a down night, but the defense held them to 7. So you got to figure out ways. The other thing I was going to say is, maybe we can do an episode sometime on, and if you think you're ready to be a head coach, probably be a couple weeks. We need to probably do some scheme stuff, but
yeah.
Here's one question I would ask you. Are you ready to fire somebody? I had to do that year one, 27 years old. I had to walk in and it needed to be done. I'm not going to go into all the details. It is what it is, but if you're not ready to do that, then you're not ready for that seat.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of, what is it? Heavy as the crown, right? Like
yeah.
There's a lot of pressure at the top. Sweet, Coach. Let's get into what not to do as a coach here, and then we will close this thing out.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to do as a coach, especially with this episode, is understand that not all jobs are good. Like, not all jobs are good jobs. Be selective. I think I've given that advice to a lot of coaches. Most of them don't listen to me because they're just like I was, and they just want a job, and so they take these bad jobs. So first step of advice or what not to do is try not to take a bad job. Try your best not to take a bad job. And there's a lot of them out there. Most jobs are not good jobs. The second part is once you have taken whatever job you've taken, you better drink the Kool-Aid. You better drink and you better be all the way in, whatever it is. You can't take a job and be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You can't take a job thinking in 3 years I'm going somewhere else, or in 2 years I'm going somewhere else, or I'm building my resume and I'm leaving. Once you're in, you got to be in. And that means you got to go to the basketball games, and you got to go to the community events, and you got to go to all that stuff because you need to be the face of that program. So, one, don't take a bad job. But two, once you've taken any job, you better be all in, all the way in, whatever you can do to make it happen. Because if you're not going to do it, no one's going to do it.
Yeah, that's really good advice. You can't halfway do anything, right? What's the old? You can't half-ass it. You got to whole-ass anything you do. I love. It's one of my favorite movie quotes. All right, Coach. Last time we'll mention the sponsors here. If you haven't already reached out to Mark and Ryan over at Ace Sports, do that. Get over to fbcoachsimpson.com. Now's the time to make yourself better. Be better prepared for next year. Coach Simpson is the king at organizational things. Whatever it is you need to organize. If you need an offensive book, a defensive book, just to write down your ideas. Special teams, he's got it all, right? Get over there and look into those things. Guys, it is clinic season. Go to clinics. And I hear a lot of people, I have heard coaches on staffs I've been on say they're not going because they're not going to learn anything. That's ridiculous. Go learn something. Go learn the next wrinkle of whatever you're doing at your school, right? See where you could be. One of my favorite parts is when people have clinics, and if you come to Boston, we're going to have this part. And it's I have zero film of this. This is theoretical. I think this is what's going to be successful to add on to this in the future, right? This is not, look, I can show you where I scored 20 touchdowns with this play. It's, I think this thing would work. We're going to have that in Boston, I promise. Go do that. Be theoretical about where you could be, right? Maybe it's a passing concept. Maybe it's a run scheme. Maybe it's shifts, motions, trades. Maybe it's a 2-quarterback system. Whatever it is, find a way to be more successful just by adding wrinkles to what you're doing. Kenny does it every single year, right, Coach? Like that's the next Gun T book. 7.0 will be whatever wrinkle you figure out this spring and use in the fall, right? I mean, that's just kind of how it works. Keep adding wrinkles.
Y'all always thinking ahead. We usually edit out the crap that don't work, but for the most part, we're always, like Daniel said, you're always thinking, what's the evolution of what you're doing?
Yep. Stay a step ahead. Don't let people catch up to you. It's an arms race, right? Especially in this day and age. It's always an arms race. So go out and stay productive. Coach, social media-wise, I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. It's a great time to get on the Patreon and start learning some things. If you are a young coach wanting to learn ball, Guys, I have a tier out there for you. If the money's an issue, holler at me. Let me know. There's a lot of free members joining my Patreon. Guys, I'm not posting anything over there really for free. You'll get the messages remind you that the thing that people are paying for is available, but there's not a lot going out there for free. I do that on here. I do that on the YouTube. I do that on Twitter. But by all means, I jump in there and be a part of the group. That's awesome. And then the YouTube, I'll continue adding to as I get out of season mode. I'm still in season mode and just trying to get back to making products and content. So hopefully all that grows. Coach, where can we find you at?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So, at Twitter, FB Coach Simpson, FBCoachSimpson.com. So if you want to look at all the stuff Daniel's kind of mentioned, it's over there right now. We got a lot of stuff for free. A lot of stuff you can pay a little bit for, and a lot of stuff you can pay a lot bit for. It just depends on kind of what you're wanting. And then you can go to all the Facebook groups. If you're on Facebook, we got all the academies, OC, DC, Special Teams Academy, Shotgun Wing T. Try to drop clips. I've been dropping clips in there of our run here, all the different stuff we've been doing. So if you're in those groups, you get to see all that. And there's a ton of other guys in there talking. Ball has been pretty cool to see all the guys connecting.
Awesome. I want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.